that we. So, Avery, talking about the Anapanasati Sutta, many people misunderstand it partly because of the language that's there. That if you will notice that the operative verb throughout all of the aspects of Anapanasati has the quality of thus one trains oneself. Did you pick that up? Did you catch that thus one trains oneself?
No, I'm more
All
so
right.
focused
That
on.
I know it's easy to miss because we're looking for nouns and we fail to look at the verbs. All right. And so the whole point of the Anapanasati Sutta is about training, and that a lot of let's just call it Western Buddhism. A lot of the people in Western Buddhism have become confused about that. They think that all they have to do is watch the breath, which might be okay if they could watch the breath, but watching the breath has no skin in the game. Watching the breath is like watching somebody else play a video game. That if a kid is playing a video game, say on a PC, and his friend is watching him play the game, and mom comes into the room, who's the one who's going to be most likely to pay attention to mom who came into the room to drop the game? The one who's playing it or the one who's watching?
Hmm, I would say playing.
Pardon?
Playing? Well, watching. Sorry, watching. That makes more sense.
Yes. The one who is merely watching the game, the one who is playing the game has some skin in the game. And this is the way that Anapanasati has become problematic, is because they think that it's watching the breath like you're watching someone else breathe, to where putting some skin in the game actually your own skin because it's you that's doing the breathing. And therefore it's time to take control. That in fact you could say that the entire teachings of the Buddha have to do with each one taking control of their life rather than being the victim of circumstances. And that the place that we're going to begin to do that is with the breath. Now, there's something very interesting about controlling the breath, and that is that if you're controlling the breath, you have to be controlling the mind in order to control the breath. What's going to control the breath? It's going to be the mind. And so, in order to control the breathing, we have to have the mind to do that control. And here is where the training comes in. That yes, there is some training in the body. That in fact, when people begin to breathe better, they begin to have stronger muscles in their chest area. They begin to develop in ways that they wouldn't have developed if they had not taken control of their breathing. Now, when you're taking control of the breathing, that means that you're beginning to take control of your life. You're beginning to control the mind. You're beginning to do something that's different than what you would do in the sense of mere observation. Because mere observation has no effort, it's got no energy, it's got nothing to it, and the mind will just waddle right away. Mind will wander away easily. But if you're actually breathing and intentionally breathing, then the mind will stay more focused in the here now because you're focusing and making sure that you're taking longer, deeper breaths. So, breathing in long Now, breathing in long is not really a training because you have been breathing in long naturally. Every time you get up and run, you start to breathe long. Okay, when you're really, really out of breath, you start to breathe the short, which is like the panting of a dog when you're out of breath. But this is done by the autonomic system in the back of the brain, and that we will naturally breathe just very conservatively or automatically. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually take control of that breathing. It's not so much of a training experience to train the body to breathe because the body already knows how to breathe. That what we're doing is we're training the mind and we're using the. Let us talk about it in the sense of gym work, of going to the gym and lifting some weights. All right. So the first weight that we're going to learn to lift is by watching the breath, watching it in the sense of taking control over the breathing to make sure that you do see mindfully that you are taking a long, deep breath. You're making sure that it's a long, deep breath. So you understand that this is a long, deep breath because you're actually controlling it. And this is the way that we get started with it. Also, in order to control the breathing, to make it a long, deep breath, in breath, long, deep breath, out breath, we're thinking about something that is here now, not off into the past. That in fact, in order to control the breathing, we've come out of the hindrances. We've come out of the hindrances when we're taking control of the breathing. Long, deep in breath, long, deep out breath requires us to think about the breathing. Watching the breath and the mind will wander away easily, but taking the time to make sure that you're breathing in long, that's what we're thinking about. And in the process of thinking about breathing in long, we actually start watching and experiencing the body as it's breathing in long. The body becomes more relaxed on the out breath. That if there are any tensions in the body, that they will show up. You'll begin to see it. We're going to pay attention to what the body is doing when it's breathing, so that you can feel the touch of the cloth, you can feel the wind, you can feel any tensions in the neck, you can feel the top of the head, etc., like this, which is then the step 3 of Anapanasati, which is experiencing the body. And here is where it says, thus one trains oneself to start watching the body, to start experiencing the body, to see what the body is doing. And the point about this is for relaxation, that we're actually going to intentionally train the body into being relaxed, which means that we have to discover all the stuff in the body that's not relaxing and pay attention to that with the idea of letting it relax. For instance, if there is anxiety in the chest, then we should know that so that we can breathe into it and let it go. If there's any tightness in the neck, then we should be able to see that, notice it, massage it, roll the head around, do something to remove that tension, and then pay attention to what other things that the tension causes, like headaches or tightness in the face or whatever, so that we intentionally relax the body. That's also a training, to train to relax the body. And this is where the body component of the Anapanasati comes in, is that we're paying attention by breathing long, relaxing breathing, we relax the body. That's what the point is. Because if we can relax the body, then that's one of the advantages. If we can relax the body and relax the mind, then pretty soon the feelings will relax also.
That's great. I've heard people call this unification of the mind, and then in this way, it would be like you start with being present. Well, I guess it all starts with remembering, but you start with be remembering to be present, and then you start telling yourself to breathe in more deeply and watch that, and then it moves on to the physical aspects, and then you can fully relax.
hmm And while you're thinking about the body, while you're experiencing it relaxing, you're probably not beating yourself up with shoulds, woulds, coulds, concepts, and criticisms. That we come out of that kind of thought system and start thinking about what we're doing right here, right now. Start thinking about how the body feels. Start, in fact, encouraging by our thinking to relax, that we can talk ourselves into relaxing, that we use the mind to relax the body, and in the process, the mind relaxes also, relaxes out of the hindrances, out of the crap, into the here now, which is actually okay. Right now is okay. Right now has always been okay, and everybody who is in the here now experiences it as okay. But the reason that we don't experience things as okay is because we're wrapped up in the past and in the future. And so Anapanasati is basically all about what we're doing right now. And what we're doing right now is basically gladdening the mind, brightening the mind, investigating the thoughts that are in the mind, move those thoughts, those gladdening thoughts, into the body and start having happy thoughts about the body. Wow, I can relax. Wow, this feels good. And when we have the mind that's relaxed and the body that's relaxed, now we can start working on the feelings. That in fact, it's important when we sit down for practice that we sit down in a safe place, get the body in a safe place, into an empty hut, out into the forest, out into an empty room, somewhere like that, away from other people. The Buddha did not recommend going to meditation retreats and sitting in a room with a whole bunch of other people pretending you're not there. He talked about actually physical seclusion, to get away from it all, because often people in those meditation halls, especially the newest students, they feel self-conscious. They don't feel safe and secure and relaxed the way that they could if they were actually on their own. So getting yourself into a safe place so that the body can actually feel safe. The joke that I tell is that the police station is not a good place to practice meditation. It's not a good place. Okay. A church is not a good place to practice meditation unless the church is empty. And most churches are empty most of the time with nobody there. But when there's a whole crowd of people there, that's not the best time for practicing Anapanasati. So once we get the body into a safe place and we can recognize with the mind that we're in a safe place, eventually we begin to feel safe, which is quite remarkable because most people spend most of their lives feeling unsafe, feeling dangerous, feeling like they've got work to do, like they've got to go fix things up. They got to go patch that fence to keep the wolves out. They got to go write that essay or write that email or do this, that, and the other thing so that they'll feel safe. And guess what? After we do all of those things, we still don't feel safe. Oh, you got the lights on. All right. So this is the whole point then, is getting the body into a safe place so that we can get it to relax. Also getting the mind into a safe place so that then we can begin to feel safe. We can talk to ourselves about the fact that right now I do feel safe. I do feel secure. I do feel satisfied. I do feel comfortable because the body is safe. The thoughts are safe. We can feel safe. Now, feeling safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied is actually the working definition we use for the Pali word sukha. And sukha is exactly the opposite of the word dukkha. So we have been practicing, we have been skillful, learning how to feel bad. We've been in dukkha. We have been doing it ignorantly. Now is the time to wisely come out of the dukkha into feeling safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. Because when you feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied, where's the dukkha? And this is also, this sukha element is referenced as thus one trains oneself. We train ourselves into feeling safe. We train ourselves into feeling comfortable. We train ourselves into being satisfied. That right now everything is okay. I don't need to be enlightened. Right now everything is okay. I don't need anything right now. I don't need to read another sutta. Right now is okay. We get ourselves into that state of everything is fine, everything is okay right now. No work to do, no place to go, and everything is just hunky dory. This is the way that we practice. To practice getting the mind into that state of satisfaction. And we do that by getting the body feeling safe and comfortable. And then we begin to feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied over and over and over again. We breathe in, ah, oh, this feels good. We breathe out, wow, what a relief it is. Don't have to deal with any of that anymore. You can set it down, set it aside, leave it alone, and just take a rest. Now, this restfulness that we're talking about actually has the quality of being very alert, very watchful, being on guard. Why? We want to be on guard so that we can maintain this state of safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfaction. Who wants to get out of this? You know, there's the old joke of we don't know if there's a heaven or not because anybody who's ever been there has not come back to tell us about it. And the answer to that was once you're in a state like that, who'd want to leave?
I see.
Okay. All right, so this is where we're going, is we're going to get into a state that is comfortable enough we don't want to leave this. So we're going to guard it to make sure that the mind doesn't wander away into a bunch of crap. And we can
If you're
stay in the
on
here now.
if you're on guard, how how can you be relaxed and on guard at the same time?
Well, if you can ask yourself that question, you may come to the conclusion that being on drugs is not necessarily beneficial. It just happens to be all the rage. All of the little children are looking for things to make themselves feel better. Now, in the old days, all they had was tobacco and alcohol. But now there's a wide variety of things that people want to try to make themselves feel good. But nothing is going to make you feel good. Not a pill, not a car, not a girlfriend, not a motorcycle, not a new house, not an education, not a degree. Nothing is going to make you feel good. You're going to have to do that yourself.
Yes, but being on guard in my head is the opposite of being relaxed. I would say that right now I'm pretty relaxed. So if I'm relaxed and attentive, then I can see the thoughts I'm having.
Okay. But that heaven doesn't last if it was done by the pill or the
Oh,
LSD or the mushroom or whatever. So, how
right.
many mushrooms do you have to take? as a substitute until the pills or the mushrooms or whatever begin to have their own side effects.
I don't do drugs, so.
Pardon?
Oh, I don't do drugs.
Well, you were asking about them, so why do
No,
you
no, no,
want?
no, 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 no. I was not asking about drugs. I said if you're talking about being in a state of being relaxed and you are on guard against negative thoughts, to me, being on guard sometimes seems like the opposite of being relaxed. So I wonder how those two states can coexist.
Actually, drugs are not necessarily ever going to make someone relaxed. They're
Yeah.
generally, whatever the
No, 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 no.
drugs are,
No, 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 no. Forget about the
they,
drugs.
pardon?
Sorry, forget it. I wasn't talking about drugs. I am talking about when you meditate and you get into a state of relaxation. You mentioned being on guard against negative thoughts so that you don't have to leave that state of relaxation. And then I'm trying to say, to me, it seems like being on guard seems like the opposite of being relaxed. So I wonder how those two states can coexist.
I do not understand why you would associate anything that I have said with drugs.
So I'll let you keep talking.
All right. Okay. Well, let's leave the drugs aside and talk about what you can do with your own mind. Because drugs are not going to change your frame of reference. They're, if anything, going to make things even more intense, like a barroom fight. The fights happen anyway, but the alcohol kind of takes the inhibition out of it so that the people will fight rather than doing what's right thing to do, which is keeping their mouth shut and sit down and not cause trouble. Because they're drinking alcohol, they'll wind up having a fight. That almost all physical fights are alcohol fueled. But a lot of them are fueled with other things that people will take. All right. And they're always trying to take something to make themselves feel happy, and they don't wind up feeling happy. The guy who gets drunk and then gets into a fight doesn't wind up happy. He winds up hungover and probably pretty well beat up. But he was out looking for happiness in the first place. There's a song about that. It's called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. And the only place that we're actually going to find that lovingness, that nurturing quality, is by developing it as a skill. To start nurturing ourselves intentionally. Like, wow, this breath is nice. Wow, right now is okay. Not a care in the world, not a worry. And we keep working with those kind of thoughts that everything is all right, there's not any problems, and that will help us feel safe. To recognize that, in fact, we have spent much of our lives trying to solve problems that really weren't problems at all. That, in fact, you can think of it this way, that if someone gets themselves into the mindset of being a problem solver, and then he has no problems to solve, then not having a problem to solve becomes a problem. And so he starts looking for problems to solve.
I've seen that.
So, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to start practicing being okay without having any problems to solve. We're going to set the problems down. We're going to take the to-do list and throw it out and start with a don't do that list instead. What don't do? Don't make problems. Don't feel bad. Don't spread your bad feelings to other people. You know, that in fact, there's a very famous quote by the Buddha, and it's just merely the word stop. I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too. Stop running your mouth. Stop running your feet. Stop running around. Stop hurting people. Stop trying to get what you want and just sit down and relax. Everything is already okay. And once we can get into that state, that we've stopped all of that unwholesome thoughts, now we have to guard to make sure that we can stay in a wholesome state. And then something will come up and the mind will wander away. That's just common enough. Never mind. Come back and start again. But we want to make sure that we're actually putting in the effort of the practice, not just simply waiting for the bell to ring, because waiting for the bell to ring is just another hindrance. And so we're practicing hindrances when we want the meditation to be over. Instead, we don't care about when the bell rings. Right now is good enough. Right now is good enough. And so we keep coming back to right now is good enough, satisfying. No dangers, no worries, no discomforts, no problems. Everything right now is just good enough. And this is the practice of Anapanasati, getting the body into a state that is good enough, getting the mind into a state that is good enough, getting the feelings into a state that this is good enough. Wow, this is really good enough. And as we gain that skill of this is good enough, we begin to recognize how marvelous it is that things are actually good enough.
I know. I've become a little.
Wow, things are actually good enough.
Yeah.
So this is how we're practicing. We're practicing letting things be good enough to become satisfied with the way that it is. Not perfect, not special, not super duper, just okay, just good enough. And we go from one good enough to another good enough to another good enough.
Thank you.
Pretty soon we really like feeling good enough.
I might go practice.
So do you think you can practice with Anapanasati like that?
Yes.
All right. Well, go practice being good enough. Remember, you have to practice this. Maybe an hour a day broken up into 5 or 10-minute sessions. 10, 15 minutes at a pop. You don't need to sit for long periods of time, because if you sit for long periods of time, the mind will get dull and you'll begin to think about, I wish this time was over, which is not good enough.
I enjoy practicing in nature. I sat there in a forest for maybe 30 minutes and just practice breathing and feeling satisfied with the moment. It was really
Yeah.
nice.
Yes. Continue to do that. Go practice that several times a day.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Avery. We'll see you later.
See you.
Have fun.